I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone, where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if the conflicts we fear most were the doorway to peace? And what if the revolution the world is waiting for doesn't begin with politics or power, but with the courage to heal the conflict within us? Barbara With is an international peace activist, award winning author, and publisher. She is also a psychic channel, composer, performer, workshop facilitator, and speaker whose work inspires audiences around the world. Inspired through her unique channeling work with Albert Einstein, she is co founder of Conflict Revolution, a groundbreaking process for resolving inner conflict as a pathway to personal, community, and global peace. Barbara is the author of 6 metaphysical books, including the award winning Einstein et al. Manifestation, Conflict Revolution and the New Operating System, and Imagining Einstein, Essays on M Theory, World Peace, and the Science of Compassion. Barbara's teachings and World Peace Tour explore maps of human consciousness, the science of compassion, Einstein's unified field theory, and much more, challenging us to rethink conflict and the very nature of peace. Welcome, Barbara. Thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, Jane, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, likewise. So we're both really excited. Let's get started. Your work is very, very unique. As I was mentioning to Barbara at the beginning, it sits at the edge of science, spirituality, consciousness, metaphysics, Einstein's theories, and human transformation. So what first inspired you, Barbara, to do the work that you do today?
It was a trick, sort of, on the part of God, because I started out in music. I was a songwriter from the age of 12. All I wanted to be was a rock star. I went on the road at 17 for 20 years singing, and that was my everything got thrown into that direction. And there was a parallel direction that was arising from it that took me into what you just described. Most of the time, me still running to be a rock star. And so, but the music and the writing of the music at a young age was setting me up to be the psychic channel. Because I always used to say as a kid, I would listen and the music was already written, and I would just pull through measures and bars and all the stuff. But the journey that went alongside was that my friend Mike had a mom who was a psychic. And he didn't call her that. He just said, you have to come and see what my mom does. And I was like, whatever. So I went and she gave me this reading. But it was not like you're going to be this person or that person in this many years, or though that was in it. It was all about my psyche and the condition of it, because I came from a very traumatizing house. And then how to sort of rebuild it, how to take care of myself, and premonitions about my music being this international healing modality and things like that. So I knew what those things were, but I wasn't pursuing them. And when I started to spontaneously automatic write, I was typing a letter and it's like my hands took control and this beautiful voice came out, very much like had talked to me through Eunice all those years. So I knew what it was, but I was still kind of like, what is this? And I said, who are you? Who are you? And they said, you can call us sound. And I was okay with that. I had worked with sound since I was old enough to remember. So that was okay. And that was kind of the beginning of my sideline of being a psychic as I was moving forward in music.
Fascinating. Oh my gosh. I could just delve into that. And it's really interesting because I truly believe we're all a vibration. The energy is around us. And it's interesting when you first started talking and you said your first forte was in music. The first thing that popped into my mind was vibration, of course. And then when you just told that story that you said, "Who are you?" and it said sound. Wow. That just made the whole thing connect for me anyway, but that's a magnificent story. Well, thank you. And I've heard of a couple of people who have been writing and then something just comes through them. And that's interesting. Different people see it different ways, but that is, thank you for sharing that story. So when you first began channeling Albert Einstein, what was the moment that made you realize that this experience was real and life changing?
Well, Einstein came later after I wanted to do some group channeling with what the sound say to a group of people. And out of that came when the participants of the group said, "Who are you?" They didn't say sound, they said, "You can call us angels."
Mm.
So that was another move towards, well, what does that mean? And my associates and I, the psychic sorority, decided that the fruits of what these voices were telling us were so profound and life-changing that we really didn't care if it was the Easter Bunny, because we were taking the information, putting it, like, doing what they said and finding miraculous changes in conflicts that had been age old, in our own perceptions, in our own self enjoyment. Things were changing so positively. So getting to Einstein was a long journey. Even now I'm with angels. Okay, all right, we're angels. Um, when we put out our first book, Diaries of a Psychic Sorority, I had a literary agent who called me one day and said there was a tabloid in London looking for an interview with Princess Di on the 1-year anniversary of her death. So this was 1998. And would I want to do this interview? And again, it was like, well, how does that work? Because I've just learned that I'm not an antenna, I'm angels. And now you want me to go to Princess Di and see if she, so this was all learning, but I'm game. Like, let's see what happens. And I did the interview. I channeled it with my writing, the questions and the answers, apparently. And the tabloid flew me to New York City and interviewed me for 5 hours and didn't want the interview because there
Mm.
wasn't enough dirt, I'm sure, on Camilla and
Mm-hmm.
Charles. And it was all about world peace. If everyone who put flowers in front
Mm.
of the palace would do this process, then we'd have world peace in a day. So
Mm.
from that, them not wanting it, my agent said, well, maybe there's more famous dead people who want to talk. It's like, okay, who? We made this long list. Well, Einstein wasn't even on it. Okay. So the next person to step up, because they all didn't say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gandhi said he'd said it all, and Mother Teresa was tired, stuff like that. But was Nicole Brown Simpson.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother conversation. But when we got to John Kennedy, which
Mm-hmm.
now into 2026, that interview is pretty telling. Um, he said, this isn't your idea. We're a group of souls here. We're doing a project, clearly, and we'll tell you who's coming up. And I could see them like going, oh my gosh, Albert isn't even on the list. And so when Einstein came up, and I thought, oh my gosh, I love Albert Einstein. I don't know anything about him. I'm not a scientist, whatever. And I channeled it speaking, and it was the
Mm.
voice of all of my readings.
Oh,
It was the voice of sound.
wow.
And it took me, literally, Jane, it took me about 3 years of trying to assimilate what this meant, because you can say, oh, I channel Einstein and we did this unified field theory, but it's a deep, heavy transformation to the psyche to think about this and to think, well, wait, now why would Einstein be talking to me of all people?
Mm.
And but it was, and I just was kind of shocked about it and kept it under the covers for, like I said, about 3 years, but when 9/11 happened,
Mm.
and I thought, I have this book, Party of 12, the Afterlife interviews I published in June of that year. I
Mm.
gotta come out of the closet and bring this information forward because it's so needed and, take the risk and stand up and say, "Hey, I channel Einstein and John Kennedy and Princess Di," and so, yeah, that's kind of how I grew into accepting all of this.
Mm. What a journey you are on. And I say you are on because it continues. So I'm just curious now. You said when it came out, it was sound. Did you mean there were no words, that it was just like sound? You were making
No,
sound? I don't.
it was the voice of my first channel when I asked, "Who are
Oh,
you?" and they said, "We are sound." It was that
oh,
voice.
yeah.
It's like,
Okay.
"What? This has been Einstein
Wow.
all along?" But it
Hmm.
made sense, and they told us regularly, we couldn't just walk up to you and, say, "Hey, I'm Albert Einstein. I wanna do this and this and this." It all had to be divinely planned out, and it really had to be divinely guided by the angels
Mm-hmm.
and a group, not just me, but 3 of us to witness and hold each other responsible and, you know, and be a part of it all so one's ego doesn't get carried away.
Right.
And, yeah, it's a pretty phenomenal story. At this age, I'm starting to appreciate it in a whole new way.
I bet. Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating for sure. Well, thank you for that story. I'm sure we could make an entire podcast based on that. So, moving on then to human consciousness. Do you believe that human consciousness is evolving right now? And if so, what signs are you seeing around the world that prove it?
Absolutely, human consciousness is evolving. And the joy of all this story is that I've been in this for decades, and I've had the opportunity to bring forth this information, which is evolutionary and designed to help us evolve our human consciousness. I think mostly for survival,
Mhm.
thriving too, but
Yeah.
we're in a pretty precarious place. So, the the um the work that has transpired from this story is clearly evident to me that we are, because back in 1994 when I was, well, or 1999 when I started doing conflict resolution workshops, and I would say, at the root of your physical illness is emotion.
Mhm.
And that was just ridiculous, and doctors would have laughed at you, and today, in 2026, I've probably done over 200 podcasts since 2023 when I started officially on my world peace tour. Oh, no. This is just common thought now. This is common thought. Of course there's this holistic thing, and
Mhm.
it's just makes me beam with joy and pride and hope because I've seen it get to this place, and I talk to
Mhm.
so many podcast hosts like you, great, intelligent, seeking, capable, very capable of taking in high level evolutionary information in a everyday way, if you wanna say it that way.
Mhm.
So it's one thing to know and understand all this stuff, and it's another thing to actually do it, to do conflict revolution, not just understand how it works, but put it to the test on my conflicts. More and more and more people, even in that
Mhm.
3-year period, have come
Yes.
around and understand. And sometimes I think one reason why is because the world seems so, like, spinning out of control and people just,
Mm.
we can't control it this way, we can't control it that way, it just seems so out of control. So what can you control?
Mhm.
And that seems to be the question that then turns people to where their power really lies, which is this inward journey.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. And I think it is because we're seeking answers now to whatever is going on, whether that be the outer, the inner, and we don't see it as woo woo anymore. I just, spoke with a woman who does vision boarding, but even that is not woo woo anymore because we know that we have so much intellectual power, and the body has an intelligence too. So, you combine that together, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there is so much science now backing all of this, and so they can't deny it. I mean, in the old days, they would burn them because they say they were witches. When you
Right.
when you see, yeah, exactly, and in the modern day, it was just like, oh well, he's just a nut. Don't pay any attention to them. But the ancients knew this all along. They just had it in different languages or different forms, however they performed or decided that this was the way that things got, moved forward. We just didn't look at it that way. Joe Dispenza often says that science is the modern language for mysticism. So we can understand it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I do believe, like you do, that we are moving in the right direction. And the more we learn, the better. Absolutely. If Einstein were alive today, then here's a question. What do you think he would say about the current state of humanity, technology, and global division?
I think the work that I've been doing, I should say, my associates and I, the psychic sorority, around all of this, you see the story. It's not an ordinary story. It wasn't anything I went out to create. It was a God-driven plan, some sort of covenant we had. We volunteered and were chosen. So I think today, this information that I've brought forth is exactly what Einstein wanted when he was alive. He was looking
Mhm.
for how do you bring world peace. He had big conversations with Sigmund Freud in real life about how do we stop war. And I think when he died, he brought that passion, like, how are we going to do this? And of course, leave it to Einstein to die, go into afterlife, figure out how everything works, pull together a group of associates, 12 other associates, and find us to bring it forth, to test it for him. I mean, this is a pretty miraculous story. And and if it's true, which I believe it is, this is what he was working for today. This is what he would be saying today about this, is that
Mhm.
you can't solve our war problems at the level that we're creating them. We have to go into the root. Imagination is way more important than knowledge, so let's use that. And we have to start with the energy of ourselves. And so I think, frankly, and he's been asked in channeling sessions, are you going to reincarnate? And he says no, because I'm having, first of all, too much fun, but it, sort of like gravity, he can be everywhere at once. And this is all part of his plan, the Party of 12, way back in 1998. We've got this thing, world peace. We're going to bring it forward. And thanks to the support of the psychic sorority and my untiring commitment to this crazy mission. I mean, you can't walk away from this as much as you want to. It's a mission that we're making a huge difference already with what we've done today, and I think it's only going to continue to expand as I move
Mm.
forward in the next couple of years.
Mm. Wonderful. It's yeah, I that's so interesting that someone asked them or others asked him if he's going to reincarnate. And he says, I don't need to. I have people. So Einstein, figured he would do that. So maybe you've answered this question because what do you believe is the greatest inner conflict then that humanity is facing right now? And how does your groundbreaking conflict a revolution help?
Here's the root of all conflict that plays out, Einstein says. In this system, this operating system, this new operating system that we are teaching ourselves to align to compassion, It's a kind of a basic system, and you'll see it. There's a witness, right? So there's a part of us that's watching ourselves.
Mhm.
Then there's three human dimensions, we call them. Intellect in the head, intuition in the heart, and emotion in the solar plexus. And the way they work together is that emotion, despite us thinking we're only supposed to feel a little bit of it and not the whole thing, is the essence of creation, and it's flowing up through us with all that information. And when it splits into two, it becomes the voice of emotion, the voice of compassion, which is intuition, telling us the next most advantageous step for the good of this whole organism that, of course, only that voice of God within us can know. The third piece of how we're human is the intellect, which is there to describe and then, project into the physical world, this world. Well, intellect has been given the power of free will. So your intuition can tell you to rest, but your intellect can say, I can't rest. I've got a million things to do, and then make the decision to go do a million things.
Mhm.
So Einstein says, regardless of who it is, what it is, when you cut your intellect off from being the sort of divine masculine, the faithful servant of the divine feminine, the intuition to do her bidding, that is the root of all conflict, and the resulting manifestation is the illness, the conflicts, the war, all of it. So when humans start to operate differently, when I operate differently and follow my intuition, I may not solve your problems, but my world and my experience becomes more peaceful, more fluid. I draw into myself that alignment, the law of attraction. I'm drawing to me what I'm creating within myself. Or better yet, I'm projecting into the manifestation this peace and this alignment that's going on. And that's when it becomes magical, because intuition knows things that you will never, ever, ever be able to know in your head. And when you
Yeah.
surrender and follow it, even in the worst, like, what? You want me to what? And I just want to share this as a good little point for this, is that back in 2005, when I was first channeling Imagining Einstein, this book that got me invited all over the world. So Einstein told me that compassion was the fifth fundamental force of the universe. And he went on to explain what that actually meant, how it operates, and that the center, the source of everything is in the center of the earth, and it operates like a black hole. Now, I don't even know what that means because I'm not a scientist. All I wanted to be was a rock star. And I said to him, so you're telling me I have to stand up in front of scientists and tell them this? I mean, am I going to be laughed off the stage? Is this even possible? Well, last summer, it was the 31st annual Science of Consciousness Conference in Barcelona, put on by the University of Arizona Tucson Astrophysicists Department. And I had 25 minutes to present. And it was dang near on the very day, the very 70th anniversary of Einstein's actual last words being read in London on July 9th, 1955, where he pleaded with world governments to make peace because nobody's going to survive World War III. So on the 70th anniversary, I present this, and I get to the part in the story where I'm saying, and then he said, the center of the earth was like a black hole. And I said, I have to stand in front of the scientists. Are they going to laugh me off the stage? 3 people fist pumped. We knew it. We knew it. It's a black hole. We knew it. So that was sort of the end of a cycle for me. I think that's when I finally, after all of these years, said, it has to be Einstein. What in the world? And then suddenly I started seeing clips everywhere about Nassim Haramein and Brian Greene all talking about how black holes aren't just things that eat, universes. They can be these small things. And yes, it's very likely that we're in the middle of one right now. And I think he's doing
Wow.
what he's set out to do.
Amazing. Yeah, there is so much there. It's interesting because you going back, you first talked about intuition and how the brain become or the intellect becomes the, I would call it the operating system. You know, it's the, but I've heard that intuition is your divine guidance. So that makes total sense in what you were saying. And compassion, yes, it's so interesting because I'm working on a project that's really about self leadership, but that plays into self compassion because we as humans are the hardest on ourselves. It doesn't matter how high up the ladder you have gone. You know, it's a learned, it's interesting because when we're young we're all about ourselves. When we're children, you know, we have imagination. You know, we don't care if you know, everything's about us. Look at me, why you know. And then we get programmed, but we forget to have compassion for ourselves. And but when we do, look at, like you said, what happens is that things start to fall into place. And even though your intuition says, what, you want me to do that? Are you out of your mind? But then you do that and you're like, aha, now I see. Because yes, absolutely, that is so powerful. I understand completely. Well, this question you probably answered, but I'm curious now. In a world that often rewards power, speed, and division, why is compassion becoming such an important force for our future? Is it because we're more tuned into alignment with our true selves? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why do you feel that? Because obviously the world is driven with power, speed, and division right now.
And yet, it's just the sum of the individuals.
Mm.
So we tend to sometimes move in a group mindset, of course, but at any time, God has given us the right to have free will.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why right now what's going on is a combination of that expansive consciousness and the uh the the threats of World War III, if you know, sum it all up, right? I think there's this kind of terror that triggers a feeling that when it's activated within the evolved energy, it triggers, rather than destructive spiraling down into destruction, it triggers, what else can I do? And what, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. I feel so helpless. So I have to let go of thinking I can do all those things. What else can I do? Well, I can do this. I can do me. And so the combination of the consciousness expansion that intellectually understands that, right? You and I intellectually understand that it starts with us. But how do you do that? What are those steps that you, Jane, are going to do in your energy field with your emotion, with your intuition, with your intellect? And I'm finding that as I introduce this to people in this atmosphere of heightened consciousness and sort of terror that there is no more future, this is like, what? It's this simple? It's like, yeah. I mean, it's hard to do. It's hard to get up in the day and commit yourself to being in your witness and committing that you're going to be responsible for not only observing what your emotions are doing, what your intellect is doing, and what your intuition is doing, but then you're going to watch to see. And this is why we call it revolution. Because when somebody triggers you and you're just so sure that those people out there are the ones that don't respect me, okay, let's revolve that around and use your witness to see where in the system are you disrespecting yourself. And I'm telling you, every time it comes between intuition and intellect. You can have a detail. Well, he didn't respect my time. And I can look and say, oh gosh, look at how many times I said yes to things that intuition was telling me, no, I didn't respect my time at all. And when that shift happens, once you make that shift and it's like you wanna go back to blaming Uncle Fred and your father or whoever, but, because you did it once and you got to that aha moment where you went, "Oh," and then you made the decision not to do it. And
Mhm.
that's what manifested the calm and the breath and then the things like the synchronicity happening, stuff showing up when you need it, and little conflicts being resolved that you couldn't have done before. You get to see the byproduct of this world peace building. So it's really, really exciting. And when you get this simple process, yeah, you can't go back.
Mm. And you don't want to.
Mm-mm.
But it's the awareness, Barbara. That's what it is. It's training your mind to be aware, because so many of us walk around unconscious. I mean, the words, I'm so tuned into words, and the words that some people spew. I mean, even family members, it's just like, do you know what you just said? What? It's like, and now I just say, well, you're so unconscious, and they just don't know how to respond to that because
Well,
they
and you
don't
can
get
hear
it.
you can hear their own conflict in what they're
Yeah.
saying. It's just
Yeah.
revolve it. It's clear. So
Yeah, I know. But you must come up against these people too, where you're just like, oh, there's no helping them. It's just like, you can tell people and try to teach them and show them the science or not. It doesn't matter. But it's just, you have to be open to knowing that, like you said, it's that simple, but it's knowing the knowledge and then applying what it is that you need to learn in order to become aware of what it is that you're saying and doing. And like you said, listen to your intuition. And yes, I did give my power away. And okay, why did I do that? I'm not going to do that again. And so on and so forth. It's a practice. I always say life is a
mhm,
practice. It's a practice. It's a
exactly.
practice. And, I'm sure you've even come up against days where you go, oh, okay, no, not going to go there, because your mind just, your intellect just takes you away. I mean,
Well, and the new operating system, this is the little example that I give is I was working with this woman, I was working in a restaurant with this woman, and she just couldn't had she was the manager and she couldn't get to work because she was sick, and so she was calling
mhm,
everybody all through the shift, and we were slammed, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and she's still on the phone with me as I'm getting into my house, and I thought my trigger finally happened, and I said, "Oh my god, she's a control freak." And immediately, "Okay, Barb, so don't you be a control freak. So what are you gonna do?" And I said, "Shelly, call me in the morning." "Okay, huh."
mm,
I didn't have to lecture her about how she's a control freak, like you're saying, you can't change
yeah,
anybody. But it happens so instantly that now I can "Oh, okay, I don't wanna be a control freak. Here's what I'll do not to." And
right.
yeah, it's just a miracle.
Yeah, it is. But you see, you caught yourself. Yeah, I mean, that's the awareness, and that's a tune. You have to tune, like you said, in music, you have to tune into it and always have it there. And because the more you practice it, the more you become attuned to it, and you become the awareness gets heightened, and then you're like, okay, I hear this, and I'm gonna, like you said, call me in the morning. Goodbye.
And once you do that, it's the new operating system. Then
Yes,
it just kicks
yeah,
in. It's how you
exactly.
operate, and that's what I'm finding now at this age, after all of this work, that even the biggest I just had a very, very, very dear friend come at me with this huge conflict about me, and I was like, "Time for con rev. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna waste energy hashing through the
Yeah.
details of the triggers. Let's get right to the work." But the biggest challenge, I just wanna say, of people who are evolved, people like you and
Mm,
me who do understand this great capacity, is that sometimes we mistake understanding it for doing it. Like, "Oh,
mm,
yeah, I know how to do that." Okay, good. But are you? And that's what we're kinda
mm.
getting back to.
Right, right. Well, that's where I go back to, it's a practice. I never say it's always done. It's always a practice because we're always learning, we're always growing. There's always more to learn.
There's always conflict.
Yeah, yeah. Even well with yourself, you know.
It's just a
Uh,
part of the creative process.
Yeah,
And when we have a
absolutely.
different operating system that processes conflict in a regenerative way, it's just how we how we deal with that ever powerful conflict of creation.
Yes, yes, so true. Well, Barbara, moving on now to the psychic abilities, your psychic abilities, because this fascinates me. People are often very fascinated by psychic abilities and also very skeptical. So, how do you explain intuition, psychic awareness, and channeling in a way that bridges spirituality and science?
Well, the unified field theory and the maps of human consciousness that we brought forth from Einstein is the theory of how matter manifests. And it's the
Mm,
theory of why all of this work on with conflict revolution works. So, when I look at that science part of it, and then I add in the compassion, which is, part of this operating system, there isn't any more separation from
mm,
spiritual and scientific, and it just it's kinda just how it logically operates to me, and I think I think science is, especially after attending a couple of conferences of the science of consciousness, uh, they need this. They
mm,
need something more than just the mathematics, and for me, it took me, um, a lot of learning, a lot of investigating, a lot of like, I'd have a reading, I'd write down what I thought it meant, the psychic part of it, and then I would proceed through life to see, what really happened against what I thought was gonna happen. So I did a lot of that kind of hands-on investigation, but
mm,
everyone has intuition as a part of the operating system. Everyone is psychic. You're channeling your
mhm,
life right now. It's coming up from the source, apparently, that's in the center of the planet in this gravitational wave that's bursting forth into this lens of the physical world, becoming your body that's then projecting and perceiving this whole amazing thing. So it's just kind of the truth of who we are and how people view it, whether it's like I'm a psychic and I can predict your future, or that's a saxophone player who can channel music, scat, and
mm,
improvise, channeling sound. It's everywhere.
mm. Wow. That gave me a lot of food for thought. I'm just my mind is like going, "Whoa, that's really interesting." Absolutely, because I've read lately a lot about we're holograms, and I it's coming up, a lot. Like you said, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of doors opening, as I put it, in this realm, and also, the leaps and bounds in the science. But it was interesting when you first started to describe the spirituality, the science. All I thought was they're just labels that we've given them. They're labels that we use because that's how we can function. It's just like we've
Yes.
made up time. We made time because that's how we can, move through our lifespan or whatever. I've heard that before. So yeah, it's the labels that we as humans have given it. But like in your view, it's all one because
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And I have to laugh about this when this whole thing about, "Are we living in a simulation? Is this a matrix?" And I was like, "Yes, and I've got the map to show you how it works and how we can master it." But I
Yeah.
guess, a little ahead of my time. Anyway,
Not I think you're right on cue, Barbara. I mean,
right on time.
sir, yeah, it is. You're right on time. I don't think you're ahead. Now, if you'd come around 20 years ago, I'd say, "Oh yeah, they might put you away somewhere." You know.
Exactly.
I But no, absolutely. And you see your maturity gives you the wisdom too to look at this the way you do. There's a lot of elements in play here, I think, for why you are here at this time, and the knowledge that you have and the wisdom having gone through your life, basically, because that's our life is a classroom. It teaches us every single day if we allow it. Yeah, that's the awareness
Amen,
again,
sister.
right? Yeah.
Yes,
Amen.
absolutely.
So, what have your experiences taught you about the afterlife, and what happens to consciousness after physical death?
Oh gosh. Okay, a quick map. We're going to look at the map. Okay, so we're out in the heavens. We're looking down on the earth, right? You see the earth. It's got the
Hmm.
electromagnetic field. And from the center of the planet is you have what you call your compilation of your consciousness. So that is the particle that compassion as the fifth fundamental force is reaches into the nothing and takes out this electromagnetic particle that surrounds all the math that's going to be everything you experience, like a compass drawing circles. And then like a compass that aligns to true north, it aligns all the compilations, yours and mine, to true north on the planet. So we're all on the same map. And from yours comes a gravitational wave to the surface of the planet, bursts through
Hmm.
into what we call a lens, the physical world where your body is. And then the wave continues on until it meets the edge of the Earth's electromagnetic field and gets pulled back up, back into the North Pole, back down into the center of the planet. And this is where the black hole is when you cross the event horizon of the North Pole and goes back into your compilation only to begin again, and it's spinning at the speed of light. When the body dies, that string keeps spinning, and everything that you've experienced in that life, all the decisions you've made have compiled in your compilation, and they're still spinning. And it's like people who are still in the lens can perceive you as a hologram, thus ghosts, right? However that interaction works. And and life goes on. Living goes on. Learning goes on.
Hmm.
And what Einstein has said is that he in order for him to speak through me, he rides the wave, his wave and my wave, sort of, before they're solid, share the wave, and then he comes through and shares my body and, continues on out into the heavens, and he's spinning at the speed of light squared, but I slow down to the speed of light because 'cause I've got the physical body. So, we are in afterlife right now as we speak. A great deal of the operating system is already in afterlife, and so when the body dies and the lens closes up and the string speeds back up again, so you're not slowed down,
Hmm.
that's your soul, that's the eternal part of your soul, and there's from what I can understand, a kind of a different way that energy operates. Um, for one thing they told us early on was that in afterlife, privacy is not something that you demand, it's something that you give. So, for example, if you and I had a fight and you went away and you were working through your fight, you were working through your part, I would give you the privacy that you needed to do what you needed to do. You might not wanna talk to me or demand stuff, but in afterlife, apparently, that's what compassion does for us. We determine that we're gonna give them privacy, and all kinds of other stuff, but so, yeah, to me, it's a much less transition death these days than what now that I know all of this and I see these maps and I think, "Oh, okay, so the my body dies, but the whole system's going on, and it's going on now, so part of me is privy to it." So, I'm kind of
Wow.
excited.
Yeah. It's it's all perspective, I mean, it changes your entire perspective. It's really, really interesting. Yeah. Now, all of that information that you were just telling us, that I'm assuming you got that through Einstein, or did you do research? Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just curious now, when you say he channels you, does he just interrupt you any time of day and you're just like or do you actually go and seek his the guidance? I'm just curious now.
You know, through the years, it's been yeah, there's times where I would go out in my backyard and just talk to him because there were years it was very hard to be this person. And it was
Mm,
like, "Why?
yeah.
Why have you done this to me?" But in terms of channeling, for me, it feels like me in the sense
Mhm,
of I don't feel like some weird entity inhabits my body and it's just foreign. However, there's like going back to the sound idea and vibration, is that people have a fingerprint of they Einstein calls it our inner gravity that
mhm,
makes us me, makes Barb with Barb with. And when I go to Einstein, I oftentimes go to the whole party rather than just one, like, because this voice of wisdom is of these many collective voice of this group, and then the party, of course, is much bigger than just the 12 it started out to be as people have passed on and come into the party, and I've channeled different Jung and, others who are around, but I have developed a very healthy, uh relationship to those in afterlife to give me privacy. It doesn't mean
mhm,
people can't come to me but I am not here to do every last bidding that you
mhm,
want me to do because we can communicate. I don't have to be open at 24 hours a day, and people say, "Well, I'm an empath and I pick up all this stuff." You say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," but you don't have to be victimized by it. And
mhm.
so I have a
Right.
really healthy relationship between that and then knowing my own intuition, like my own body. When my own body goes, "Toot," it's like, oh, okay, get out of the
Mhm.
head, do the bidding.
Yeah. Therein lies the wisdom, Barbara. That's
Yes, and the
why you're
practice.
one. Yes, and practice. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Well, do you feel that what role do you feel that fear and chaos play in the evolution that we're talking about, the awakening, so to speak? Is there a role that people? I'm assuming there is because there are a lot. I think a lot of people are fearful of this information, or they have different ideas. Have you come up against that, or what? How do you feel about that?
I think fear is greatly misunderstood.
Hmm.
And in our model, emotion, the first part of this gravitational wave, the first human emotion, the first human dimension, fear is just another part of creation. So think about a color wheel or the color palette. The whole wouldn't be the same if you took out the red.
Mm,
So fear has become defined as this thing that we're supposed to avoid that leads to this and that, and to a certain extent it does, but more importantly than just the emotion of fear, there's the thoughts of fear. So
mm,
there's the pure emotion of fear. If we just got you out of your head and took you to take a breath, and you feel fear in your body. Then there's the thoughts, "Oh my gosh, the world's going to come to an end. Oh my gosh, everything's going to be." So when the emotion of fear is moving up this wave, and intuition is probably saying something like, "Breathe," right? The best step, just breathe your fear. Then it marries itself to the thought, "Oh my god, I have to be afraid of that person because they're this, or I have to be," and then that
mm,
projects, and that creates the reality. So we teach people how to embrace fear, separate the fear feeling from the fear thought, maybe replace I have a affirmation. I don't need to know why I feel this fear. I need to just start breathing and moving it.
mm,
And when you breathe fear into that, we are going to just create the channel for it to start moving again and start integrating and start being a part of the whole system. And it's really it really is revolutionary, and the results. are that profound as well.
Mm, absolutely. I love that mantra that you say to yourself. I don't need to know why I feel this fear. I just need to breathe and let it move through me. Yes, because it's the thought that gets you spiraling. And then because we
And
have crazy imaginations, we just keep going on.
oh, think of the things that we imagine.
They can be pretty bad, but yeah, it's that is a great way to put it. I love it. Well, what is one belief, Barbara, about reality that most people hold on to that you feel is completely limiting their ability to live an extraordinary life?
I think it's the ability to change.
Mm,
We have a phrase we use, it's called pivoting. And in basketball, when you're playing basketball and it's
mm,
kind of a rough and tumble, everything's happening and the ball comes over here and you think you're going to shoot that way and then the out comes the player, so you have to pivot over here. Well, you don't sit down on the court and go, why was I not able to make that shot that way? I'm usually so good at the Never does anybody do that in basketball, but we do it all the time in life. Well, we're going to go over here and then you can't go over there. And then you're spending all this time and you have to go back to your childhood and what are my patterns? And it's like when
mm,
we clear all that out and revolve and resolve all that, when I'm going to go over there and then it pivots to where it can't go that way, I'm so searching for what's the next most advantageous step. Like, where's my pivot? I'm not going to spend 1 minute attached to what happened to make me not be able to go that way. I'm going to find the next, because obviously I'm not supposed to go that way, whether I think so or not. So I think that's such a powerful thing for people. But, people don't like change. I happen to
mm.
thrive in
Yeah.
change, but most people like to not have things change. So if we can learn to lean into it, it becomes really
Yeah.
more exciting.
We have to learn to lean into it, Barbara, to
That is
evolve.
correct.
That is the
Yes,
revolution, right? I
that
mean,
is exactly
everything
it.
everything you're talking about is a change from what we believe or what we've grown up with or what we've learned. Um, it's all different. And
It's the
we
old
just,
operating system,
yeah, that's it. The old
the
operating
old one.
system.
Mhm.
Yes. So open your mind to curiosity. That's my thing. I'm always curious. I'm like, but okay, how? Why? When did that happen? But why is that like that? I'm just curious. I want to know. I mean, but curiosity is a good thing, but change, you're right. People just don't like change. Yeah. So in order to evolve, we have to change. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
just human nature. I mean, we evolve when we're children. We change. The thing is when we don't have all those barriers on us. So for example, when you're a young child and you're learning to walk, you fall, you hit your head sometimes. But it's different, but you don't say, "Oh, I'm never going to try that again. It's terrible. It scares me to death." No, you have no fear. You don't care about the change. Something clicks in us as we grow, and it starts to be make us fearful of change, of different things. And it'd be very interesting to know why that is. I
Well,
don't
my
know.
theory though is that when you said, we're not afraid. I think we are afraid, but I think
Mm,
we don't let it stop us. I
right.
think when we're kids, we don't know any better. And the example I have is like if you're in the grocery store and your 2-year-old is having a tantrum because they want to
Mm,
get something and you don't want to get it, they can sit there and scream and scream and scream. You don't want to give it to them because now you're going to reward them, but you can't stand the screaming. But it's only a matter of time before they pass out. Literally, before your 2-year-old, if they scream long enough, they're going to pass
oh,
out, and then they wake up. And it's like
right.
a whole new time and nothing
Yeah.
ever happened.
No.
So we actually do feel and breathe a lot, probably, crying and breathing without the intellectual stuff. So maybe we need more of that. Maybe that's it. More feeling and breathing, more capturing all emotion.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you believe the world now this is out there question, but what do you believe the world will look like in 20 years? And what must change now to create a different future?
I think that as the need arises, now that this expanded consciousness of humanity that's still sort of struggling to know what to do, uh, as the needs arise, that we will find our way. And
Mm,
that's my hope. It's not that we're gonna prevent any bad thing from happening. I think there could very well be some pretty tough financial crashes. I think there could be some major adjustments to, how we do business, to how we travel. I It could be all of that, but what counts is when the people come together in community and pool their resources and their economy or their compassion, working for the good of all. And when you're in a crisis, you're much
mhm,
more apt to have compassion for your neighbor who maybe you were peeved at for something before, but now there's a crisis, like after 9/11.
mhm,
I don't know if you
mhm.
were here for that,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
we all had compassion for each other. And out of that, because we have gotten to this evolved place, there's gonna be amazing creative solutions that come on a very local
Mhm,
level, because that's the only way we start. Like, we have to start world peace one person at a time with us. So, that's where we're gonna start to see that. And the more that I do it individually, when I get into that situation with the community, I can exude a kind of a regenerative influence knowing what I know about conflict and having my commitment to compassion. And I can be an influence for when, say, inevitable conflicts start to arise in groups.
right.
And creative solutions can be interfused and the energy can be, preyed upon and directed and brought into. And so that's the important part to me about the future, not how it's going to look externally, but how we're going to come together as community to sort of
Mm,
rebuild to reflect our new, operating system.
yes. Yeah. I hope you're right because all I think of is the internet and community is we're losing the energy, the sense of community because we become more separated by the machines. So yeah, because it's really needed. It's I think, yeah, especially the young people. Because when we were young, and I'm sure you're the same. I mean, we would have street parties, and everybody would get together. The neighbors, we knew all our neighbors. I don't hardly know our neighbors anymore. It tends to, it becomes a separation when you go to work. You had, your colleagues. Maybe you didn't like them, but you had to call your colleagues. But now a lot of the young people work virtually, and they might go in maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe they don't go in at all. Like my niece, I'm like, and then now she's taking her graduate degree virtually. And I said, well, you should go to the university every now and then, just be good to be around people. Oh, but I'm too busy. I have to do it at home. I'm like, okay. You know? Yeah, it's a very interesting pivot we're on here. You know, Things are
Yes.
changing.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So, Barbara, if every listener could leave this conversation with one profound truth about themselves and their purpose here on earth, what would you want their truth to be?
Your purpose is to learn to love, and
Mm,
every obstacle, every situation, every relationship is the platform to learn how to do that. And
mm,
within yourself, when you learn to love yourself and learn to align to compassion, which is it's not brain surgery, it's the hardest work to do, but you can understand these 3 human dimensions, you can understand the witness, you can commit to those things. Then the big question becomes, what will it take to get you to stand up and do it? That's the answer.
yeah. Yes, that is the answer. Well, what's one question about the universe that you still desperately want answers for?
I don't know if there's very much that I'm desperate for answers for, but, for me, part of the deep ingrained training was how at the root of everything, it's a mystery,
Mm,
and that truth translated into, um, being able to back away from thinking I'm so sure about things
mhm,
and accepting that. And so I've come to this place where I love the mystery. I love not knowing things. But what I would like to know, and I'm looking forward to, is what is that transition of death like? I can, you know, imagine it. I've certainly had friends who've passed, but
mhm.
I just I'm just very curious how that going from the body to without the body, how that takes place. I'll learn soon
Mm.
enough. But
Yeah, we all will.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. We make hay for while you're here. I mean, that is, and this is wonderful because what you're doing is definitely making an impact and a difference. So yeah, this is wonderful, and I appreciate your time here. So, Barbara, tell our audience how best to connect with you and purchase your books.
Well, you can go to barbarawith.com, Barbara, and then with, WITH, like the preposition. And my books are there, my readings. If your listeners want to get a reading, I have a coupon code Einstein40 that you
Mm,
can get 40% off an hour reading. And there's a lot to explore there. I'll lead you over to Synergy Alliance LLC, which is the psychic sorority, and all my podcasts, and Barb with, Barbwith, is my music. So there's a lot of ways to find me, but sign up for my mailing list and shoot me a message. Tell me you heard me on Jane's show.
mm, wonderful. And all of that information will be available on our bio pages. So, because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, Barbara, I have one last question. If your life were an epic story, which I believe it is, what would the title be?
Oh my gosh. I that's I think I would call it Gravity.
Mm,
I don't know
okay.
why. There's a mystery to it. There's gravity is a force that's so mysterious, just like my whole life has been. And finding out that it really isn't what it was supposed to be. I was never going to be a rock star, but yeah, Gravity. There's no cure for the longing.
Wow. I love it. That's perfect. Well, thank you again, Barbara, for reminding us that peace is not passive. It is a conscious revolution that begins with each of us. And once again, for information and to connect with Barbara, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of her contact information, her social media, and where to purchase her books. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath. Look me up at janeapplegath.com and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone. Sending you much love and gratitude. Until next time, stay visionary, stay bold, live epically.